A decade filled with sci-fi, aliens, Back to the Future, police brutality, horror icons, and of course the scariest thing of all, Reaganomics. Of course I'm talking about the 1980s. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Hertastic Reviews. I'm your host, as always, Chris, and today we're doing something a little different. We are doing a top 25 films of the 80s. Now, this is a top 25 of all time for me in the 80s. A fellow YouTube creator named Tim Talkies did like a challenge where he challenged people in the YouTube, Blu-ray, Bluetooth community, movie community to do like their top 25. He does like a couple challenges, and obviously I'm the last person to do it. I hope you are fucking ready for this top 25 I have. There was some decent input and thought, and also some drinking involved with my list. So let's just go into it. Yeah, so we're going to kick it off with number 25. 25, I have Return of the Living Dead by Dan O'Bannon. I saw this movie for the first time years ago at the Patio Theater here in Chicago with my buddies at a 24-hour marathon. This movie rocked my socks off. I met Linnea Quigley there. She's super awesome. She's great in this movie. This movie's great. We get some iconic moments in this movie, like the Tar Man, of course. Also, we get Clu Gallagher in this film, who I think is amazing. So yeah, shout out Return of the Living Dead. This movie came out in 1985. The next movie on the list I have is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 by Tobe Hooper. This movie came out in 1986. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1, but I think 2 is just a little bit better. I think I like the camp a lot more. And it definitely has one of my all-time favorite actors in Bill Moseley as Chop Top. In this movie, I just think this movie is so unhinged, and I love the idea that the creator of the original film came back to run it back and said, you know, I'm going to make something completely different and even better. The next movie I have on my list, it's a John Carpenter film, and it won't be the last time you hear about him in my list. I have from John Carpenter from 1988. I have They Live with Rowdy Rodney Piper and Keith David. I love They Live. I think it's such a phenomenal movie. I think the theme of it definitely fits with me. It's like gravy. But I just like the themes of this movie. I think the sci-fi is done well. It has one of the craziest endings of all time for me. I love this ending, and I think it pairs well with another movie that's going to be in this top 25. I have at number 22, I have Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp is a fucking crazy movie, and it's also a movie everyone should watch without knowing what's going to happen. It's got great kills in it for a camp slasher film. The outfits are ridiculous, and I take my, fashion aspirations from this movie. I just love Sleepaway Camp, and I watch it, I feel like, every year. It's just a movie that gets better and better, and honestly, the ending is quite chilling, especially that first time. It still kind of gives me goosebumps. I love Sleepaway Camp, so definitely got to put that on the list. At 21, I have Who Framed Roger Rabbit from 1988. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I remember seeing this movie for the first time as a kid. I mostly liked it because it had Looney Tunes and Disney. This movie feels like a fever dream because it's presented by Steven Spielberg. It's not directed by him, but it's by Robert Zemeckis, who actually worked on a lot of films as well. But I really enjoy this movie because, again, it feels like a fever dream. You have Disney and Warner Brothers together, which you would never see anymore. And you get it wrapped up in like a neo-noir film, which I think is crazy. It's Bob Hoskins in it. It's just a really great like murder mystery movie with like ties to like the history of cartoons. So I really like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It has a lot of things. I love animation. I love the story. I love how crazy it is, and it's just very nostalgic. So yeah, shout out Who Framed Roger Rabbit. At number 20, I have Chuck Russell's The Blob from 1988. I've seen this movie a couple times now. I really like this movie a lot. I think it's great with the horror aspect as a remake. I also love the kills in this movie. Honestly, if you want the recipe for a great movie, you get Chuck Russell to make the movie in the 80s and 90s. I think when people think of B movies and like great B movies, this is this. But for me, it's an S tier horror movie. Shout out The Blob. Great film here. At number 19, I have Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. I really like the atmosphere of this movie. I think Ridley Scott's one of my all-time favorite directors. Yeah, it's just crazy that Harrison Ford did this movie, and I think he does great, but it's obviously Rutger Hauer who steals the show for me. I just think that, Tears in the Rain literally can make me cry sometimes when I watch it. At number 18, I have another John Carpenter movie. I have The Thing. I know it's a little high on the list. I just like a lot of John Carpenter movies. I think Kurt Russell has one of my favorite John Carpenter protagonist portrayals. He also plays Snake Plissken in Escape from New York. But I think of The Thing, it's just more calculated. And I really feel for the characters in this movie. I think the gore in this is shocking for the time, and I think it still holds up today. When I think of like horror movie like kills and effects, I usually think of The Thing as like the gold standard in comparing it, and a lot of times movies do fall short. Man, John Carpenter really nailed it with The Thing. At 17, a movie that I love so much, and the more I watch it, I get a little bit more critical, but I still love this movie nonetheless because it's still an amazing movie, and I love the subgenre in horror. That is Creepshow. Creepshow is an anthology horror with George A. Romero and Stephen King. It's all about horror and macabre, laughs, great effects. I just love Creepshow. If you want something that's going to give you the October vibes, you want something that's going to give you the just everything you want in like horror all packed in a movie, I think Creepshow is a great way. I just really love this movie, and I appreciate what it is, and it gave me such an insight into the anthology horror as well. That's one of my favorite subgenres. Also, Stephen King is in this as well, so yeah, shout that out. At number 16, I have to go ahead and it was tough because I could have put 1984 in here, but I went with the 1989 Godzilla vs. Biollante. Godzilla vs. Biollante, I think, is one of the more iconic Godzilla movies. Biollante, you just get a little bit of everything with Godzilla. You get a really cool monster design, one of the most unique we've ever seen. You also get a good story as well. You get one of the best looking Godzillas in terms of costume design, and the story with the human element is really strong. It's kind of a heartbreaking story. This movie is very hard to get in terms of physical media. I hope to one day get like a more definitive. This is the Miramax Blu-ray. I just think Godzilla vs. Biollante is just like one of the quintessential Godzilla movies you need to watch. At number 15, I have one of the greatest Christmas movies ever made, and I went with Die Hard. Annual watch film. It has a great sequel that goes with it as well, but honestly, Die Hard is just the perfect movie, like everything about it is just great. It's an easy watch, and you never really get bored of Die Hard. It's just a movie that's perfect for movie lovers as well. Going in at number 14, we're in the top 15, so we had Die Hard at 15. Number 14, we have Rocky 3. Rocky 3 is my favorite Rocky movie. It's definitely a movie I think that holds up, and yeah, maybe it's got some problems in terms of being outdated, a little cheesy. Paulie freaking sucks, I know, but I still love Rocky 3 nonetheless. I really do think Carl Weathers really steals the show along with Clubber Lang. And I think it's my favorite portrayal of Adrian by Talia Shire in this movie. I think those three alone carry the movie the most. Yeah, Sylvester Stallone is great in it, and I think he's in his best shape in this movie. But I just feel like those other three just really make the movie. I just love Rocky 3 so much. Also, Eye of the Tiger still hits, so we also have to thank this movie for it. Coming in at number 13, I have RoboCop by Paul Verhoeven. I watched RoboCop for the first time 2 years ago, and I watched it again a year later, and man, this movie I love. Breaks my heart I couldn't put it in the top 10 as well, but honestly, man, this movie is awesome. I always thought for a long time that it was a Terminator ripoff, so I avoided it because I thought it was just like a movie people liked ironically. But I finally gave this movie a chance, and I was blown away. I just could not believe how big of an idiot I was. I love this movie so much. I have the action figure, and I have the ED RoboCop figure as well that's voice activated, in terms of like trying to be campy and hokey, but it's super serious at the same time, but also extremely violent. So yeah, shout out RoboCop. I love this movie. Number 12 is a movie I actually don't own because I'm trying to get it at the best physical media I can get it at, and right now I think it's on a 4K box set that I'm waiting for it to come down in price. But that would be 1989's Michael Keaton Batman by Tim Burton. I love Batman. I grew up watching this Batman movie and Batman Forever. But obviously that's not a movie that came out in the 80s. But 1989 Batman, I think it's got my favorite villain in any Batman movie, which is obviously Jack Nicholson's The Joker. I wouldn't say Joker is my favorite Batman villain, but Jack Nicholson's is probably my favorite on screen. And it captures everything I like in that era, like the late 80s, early 90s, where it's like kind of gothic and kind of creepy, but really cool at the same time. Much basically just, Tim Burton. But also you get, like kind of like Christopher Reeve Superman with Michael Keaton at the same time. So I just really love Batman. I love this movie. I grew up watching it so much, but I have to have it at number 12. At number 11, I have Friday the 13th, and my t-shirt is gonna skew you the wrong way, but that is Friday the 13th Part 2. It was really hard to choose this or the Part 4, the final chapter, but I had to go with Part 2. I love Baghead Jason. Now, do I think it should have been staying with just Baghead Jason, Nathan Jones? No, but I think the introduction to Jason is great. Yeah, I get what Sean Cunningham was doing in the first movie, but Steve Miner, I think he just does everything better that the first tried to do. I also think that it's a great design of Jason. I think the kills are great, and the movie moves like butter. So I love Friday the 13th Part 2. I wish I could put in top 10, but it just had to edge it off. All right, here we go with my top 10. If you haven't been pissed off with me yet, then just hold on to your don't actually hit that subscribe button first before you close out of the window browser. How about that? So let's go ahead and go with our top 10. At number 10, I have John Landis's 1981 An American Werewolf in London. I love this movie. I saw this as a double feature with my buddy with the original or the Wolfman, and honestly it was one of the best double features I've ever had because they're two of the most amazing movies ever. I love American Werewolf in London because it has that great blend of comedy, has an amazing opening, awesome soundtrack, and I just feel for the character in this movie. I think David is a very sympathetic character. I feel for the guy. He's hilarious at the same time. It has a very chilling and scary portrayal of a werewolf in this movie, especially with that transformation. It's just amazing. But it's a generally creepy atmosphere when the werewolf is transformed in this movie. If you haven't seen American Werewolf in London, I highly recommend it. But my God, this is one of the best werewolf movies and just one of the best horror movies, period. Coming in at number 9, I have Tom Holland from Spider-Man No Way Home. Not really, but I have Tom Holland's Fright Night. I love Fright Night. It just hits everything I love about horror movies. It has Chris Sarandon. It has a lot of funniness and homage to old horror movies, as well as like being a very cool and creepy horror movie. I just like when I think of like 80s movies, I think Fright Night now. I really do. I think this movie is just an easy watch. It has a lot of things for a lot of different people of the subgenre to appreciate and love. So shout out Fright Night at number 9. At number 8, I have another movie. It's a movie that I took me a very long time to finally get to. But once I did, I was just blown away. Like I was just like, where have I been with this movie? Like I didn't realize this movie was amazing. It's just near perfect. And it's the third in a trilogy of one of the best trilogies, I would say, before all the extra ones. But I have from 1985 George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead just blends a lot of things that, like, politically speaking and societal speaks. Does that even make sense? But basically speaking on society, I think Day of the Dead captures every message perfectly, displays it amazing. I just really resonate with this movie. The gore, this movie by Tom Savini is amazing. It has 3 of my favorite characters in the entire trilogy. I love this movie. I think it has one of the best scores as well. It's creepy because it's taking place in the daytime, but also then underground. The characters have to deal with like, you know, gross military guys, along with just the undead as well. Just like a lot of elements of horror in this. George A. Romero is master at the zombie genre, and I think this is the best of his trilogy personally. This and They Live would give one hell of a double feature, and I think you wouldn't be bored at all, and I think you would love every part of it. But yeah, I got to give it to Day of the Dead. At number 7, I have John Carpenter. This is a movie that's a little slow for some people, but honestly, I love the vibes. I love the actors in this movie, and I love how it's a meme now, where you have to avoid this thing all the time because you don't know what's in there. The Fog. The Fog from 1980, movie about ghost stories and dead pirates in a small East Coast town. Man, The Fog is great. I think it's an amazing score, great characters, a really great thriller, creepy mystery as well. If you haven't seen The Fog, I might say it's one of John Carpenter's best movies. I love this movie so much. It's just such an easy watch. And when I say it puts me to sleep, I mean like a cozy, like warm blanket sleep. I don't think like it's boring, like I'll fall asleep. That's just how I feel. I can be lulled to sleep with this. It's just so great. Yeah, so shout out The Fog. At number 6, to take a break from horror movies, if you were getting tired of that, I have 1989's Rob Reiner amazing film When Harry Met Sally. I love When Harry Met Sally. I can see this movie anytime, anywhere. I'll love it. Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan. I love this movie because it's a guy and a girl who don't like each other, and it chronicles like their interactions, throughout their life, and it's all about like a battle of the sexes. They don't like each other, but they do like each other. But also, it has such iconic moments when you think of rom-com, especially like the Meg Ryan, Tom Hanks stuff in the 90s. I think When Harry Met Sally is just like it's like the highest of the high, I think. I just love this movie so much. Like, yeah, when I think about movies and I think of rom-coms, I think When Harry Met Sally is like maybe my favorite. So I got to put that in, but it just misses out in the top 5. At number 5, I have my favorite movie in the franchise. I have Halloween 2. Halloween 2 from 1981. Not directed by John Carpenter, but it has so many parts of his original movie in this movie. I love how it's more from the night that he came home. Halloween 2 takes place in a hospital the same night from the original Halloween, and Laurie Strode is there, and Michael Myers is pursuing her, and you find a revelation about them. I think Donald Pleasence gives an amazing performance here as Dr. Loomis in the hospital. I love this. This is my favorite iteration of Michael Myers. I love how he looks in this movie. I love the hair, the mask, just the stalking in the hallways, along with a very climatic ending. I think this movie just doesn't get enough love. It's my favorite Halloween movie. I just watch this every year. Just shout out Halloween 2. At number 4, I have from James Cameron, Aliens. I mean, a near perfect movie. Sigourney Weaver was nominated for Best Actress Oscar for this movie, and deservedly so. This is one of James Cameron's best movies. I love this movie so much. It's a movie I grew up watching a lot because I loved Alien and I loved Aliens, and I just love the Alien franchises. But Aliens came out and kind of like changed the way we looked at Alien, and I think kind of set the standard for it. There's two sides, I feel like, of the Alien franchise. There's like the original Alien and the mystery of the Xenomorphs, and then there's like the action, their fodder kind of aliens, and both are equally fine. I feel like a lot of like games and arcade and lore and like Dark Horse comics stem from Aliens, which I don't mind at all because they're all awesome as well. You get to be introduced to the Queen Alien. Get away from her, you bitch. I love that with Ridley Scott. I think Newt is a great addition to this movie. You hate the Whaling Corporation. You learn more about the Whaling Corporation in this. And I love how Ellen Ripley just kind of kicks everyone's ass, and she's just an amazing movie character, one of the best ever. At number 3, I got my top 3. This kind of is cheating because it goes back. They're next to each other, but I'm gonna say first, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, directed by Jack Shoulder. The Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. I love this movie so much. I grew up watching this movie so much, just as much as the original. I don't think I think everything's been said why I love Nightmare on Elm Street 2 so much, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I just love the lead, Mark Patton. I like the story. It's got Clu Gallagher from Return of the Living Dead as well. It's got a great cast of characters. I love how Freddy looks in this movie. Most people don't know that the Christmas sweater look of Freddy, where he has the stripes on his arms as well, starts in this movie. In the first movie, it's just red sleeves. So you get, I guess, the most iconic parts of Freddy in this movie. And I don't think people give this movie enough appreciation. I think it's definitely came back up, but at the same time, show some love for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. All right, let's go into the top 2, right? So everything everyone's been waiting for. At number 2, I have Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Not Empire Strikes Back. I think Return of the Jedi has always been my favorite because I love how Luke looks in this movie. I love Emperor Palpatine in this movie. I just love the Jabba's Palace intro or opening. I love the interaction with Vader and Luke in this movie more, about the redemption. I actually do like Endor and the Ewoks as well. I don't know, Return of the Jedi is just my favorite movie. I watched it the most as a kid, and it just gave me everything I loved. I love the trench run to the Death Star in this movie. I love when, Palpatine's just being a prick to Luke and trying to convert him. I love the lightsaber battle between the father and the son. So yeah, also in this movie, you get to see how Boba Fett dies, and then we get, the Book of Boba Fett showing how he survived too. So shout that out with Return of the Jedi. At number 1, we got there. At number 1, my favorite movie of the 1980s. That is from 1984, James Cameron's Terminator. One of the best soundtracks ever. I grew up watching this movie so much. It was a VHS I had, and I think it was one of my first rated R VHSs, and my parents didn't care because they loved Terminator 2. When I think, like, my favorite genre is sci-fi and horror, this movie kind of blends both of those things. Arnold Schwarzenegger was so badass to me as a kid. I remember, like, on one of my birthdays, my mom told my dad to take me to go get a haircut for my birthday, and he told me I could get any haircut I wanted, and I asked for a flat top, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's how much I loved him as a kid. Like this chubby little kid who wants a flat top. I love Lance Henriksen in this movie. I just love Michael Biehn in this movie. Linda Hamilton, again, I would put her there with Sigourney Weaver in the 80s. Just everything about Terminator I just love. It's a perfect movie where I have no problems with it. And honestly, I love both parts of the movie, like the beginning chasing and figuring out the mystery, and then the more dramatic action in the middle, and then the third part, just the survival horror aspect, seeing the endoskeleton. I mean, just every part of this movie is perfect to me. Also, Sarah Connor, yes! Shout out Randy from Scream, too, for that. I love Terminator so much, man. James Cameron God, yeah. So Terminator is my number 1 of the 1980s. When I think of the 80s, I think Terminator. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger. So yeah, those are my top 25 movies of the 1980s. What were your movies that I missed out on? What are your top 25? I think it's harder and it's easier said than done. Shout out Tim Talkies as well for the challenge. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you are returning again, thanks for the support as always. I appreciate you. Thanks for supporting more. Again, if you subscribe, you're going to get awesome, introductions and thank yous like that. So hit that down below. My name is Chris here at Hertastic Reviews. And remember, if you aren't watching 1980 movies in 2023, do you really care about cinema? Other than that, I'll see you next time.